Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to the ninth chapter of Android development course. And in today's chapter, we will learn something about broadcast receiver. So, what exactly is broadcast and why it is required? And then, like, how can you declare a receiver? So, receiver can be declared in two ways. One is like manifest, and second is context based. So for an early startup, I will just let you know that context base is always preferred over manifest. So why we will talk about it. Then we have like something called as intent filters. So intent filters is something which is used for like sending up the broadcast and receiving it, and like it makes sure that the correct person receive the broadcast. That's why we say it as filters. So this is used to manage the broadcast. Then we will see how to send the broadcast, and then we will also see how to receive broadcast. And at the end, we will see how you will like secure your broadcast if like you are sending them. So let's begin with this tutorial. And at first, let us try to understand what exactly is broadcast and why it is required. So if you see up my screen over here, this is a mobile system, and this mobile system has various functions such as like it has a caller feature in which you receive of the call. So when you get an call, when you receive a call, there is a broadcast message which is sent by the operating system, which is the Android operating system, and like it broadcasts a message to all the applications. Now, whatever application has registered for this particular broadcast, and like it is using a specific filter which says like whenever you receive a call, then please like let me know I am interested in getting up this broadcast. So filter is nothing but your interest. So what exactly is a broadcast? Broadcast is a mechanism to make sure that you can make up a required app like for a specific kind of functionality such as like the call, or a broadcast is sent by the operating system when you receive an SMS. Say, if I just go down over here and say that this SMS, so whenever a person receives such kind of SMS, then a broadcast is sent by the SMS libraries of Android OS. So in the same way, like there are a lot of libraries which send up a lot of broadcast. For example, another example is whenever you go onto a mobile and like switch on this particular airplane mode, a broadcast is sent that the airplane mode has been switched on. Or else when you like power on your mobile switch, like just you go ahead and like put up the cable and like switch on the power button, so a broadcast is sent by the OS. So these are some broadcasts which are being sent by the operating system. So if you consider up this to be the mobile, right? And this mobile is running on Android operating system, and this Android operating system itself sends various broadcast. Right, so we have just discussed like what kind of broadcast this Android operating system sends, and like you can register for that particular broadcast, and you can hear your app can hear all these things. So for example, you have to make an app such as like what a Truecaller is doing. Whenever you receive a call, you just fetch the phone number, then you will send a request to your server, and then you will see whose phone number is that, and like you will come back to the app and then tell the receiver that this number is from this person, even though the person is not listed in your contact list. So this is a way like you are making up an app, and like you are making the use of this broadcast to deliver something good. In the same way, what AutoFunnel is doing is like AutoFunnel is a auto chat application on your SMS. So whenever an SMS is received by your phone, AutoFunnel has to read it and then revert it if that particular SMS is for AutoFunnel. So that's why like AutoFunnel like takes the SMS permission and like it registered for the like this particular broadcast. So these are some broadcasts which are sent by the Android, and in this case like you do not need to send any broadcast. The only thing which you need to do is you need to just register for a broadcast, right? So what exactly is broadcast? Broadcast is something like you people can take it this way, like a message. There is a group of people and that message is to be delivered to all the people. So what you will do, you will broadcast that. So in a similar fashion, like you have Tata Sky, right? So it is broadcasted. A single channel, Star Plus, streams the same episode again and again, and like at the same time, one episode will be running, and the same episode will be visible to all the people out there. So this is what broadcast is. But when you say about like your streaming applications such as Prime or Netflix or maybe Hotstar, Disney Hotstar. So here in these like applications, like if I am seeing a movie, say Avenger Endgame, and you are seeing a movie, say Captain America, so we both can see different movies. But on television, this is not possible. We can see only like if we have opened up Star Plus, if as of now some particular daily soap is running, so I will also be able to see the same daily soap, right? So this is the difference between broadcast and like using the application by yourself when these things are on server. So in broadcast, when you broadcast, same message goes to every person. And here in the same way, when you say that you are registering for a broadcast, obviously when you get a call, so the same message of the call will be sent to all the people. So you can register for that particular broadcast. But in this chapter, like we will be going ahead and registering a SMS broadcast, in which like when we receive an SMS, your system, your application knows like you received an SMS, and it can read up from where it came and like even the contents of the SMS. So when you say about broadcast and this SMS or like call broadcast, so Android makes sure that you should have some permissions. So while you're like you, if you register for a broadcast where you are like checking up the incoming messages, so Android hopes or like it like makes it mandatory. This is a mandatory task. It makes it mandatory for you to ask for the SMS permissions from the users at first. So if you have not seen up my permissions chapter in Android tutorial course, you can go back and see up the permission chapters first. So at first you will require the SMS permission for SMS broadcast receiver. You will need a call log permission for phone receiver. So in the similar way, like there can be a requirement of permissions while like using of the broadcast. So as of now, we discussed about the broadcast which was sent by Android. In the similar fashion, you can also send up like broadcast from your phone, like application. Sorry. So while you create up an application in Android, you can send up a broadcast uh, from your application, and say you will just name this broadcast. So you will say that the name of this broadcast is say XYZ, and this name is nothing but the intent filter. So this name can be anything, right? So you name this broadcast and say this name is XYZ, and whenever a person wants to register for your broadcast, the broadcast which is being sent by your application. So what will your like this particular broadcast do which is sent by your application? So for example, like you are running up an app over here in this mobile. I have an app say Chrome, and this app sends in a broadcast. So as this app resides on this mobile system, so it will send the broadcast and it will be reachable to all the applications which are there on this particular mobile. So if I go ahead and like make this up, all these applications will get this broadcast. But who will receive it? The application who will register for this broadcast, and like which will say that I'm looking out for this intent filter, which is name XYZ. So this particular application can like get up your broadcast, and this is how like inter application communication happens. For example, there is a Geo app, and like Geo app wants to communicate with Savan app or some other app. So this is how like the business is carried up, and like this is the use of broadcast like for intercommunication, and like even like there are various applications which tell that they are like broadcasting these things, and like you can use them if you want. So these are the like two various things like which uh, maintains up the complexities and like the communication between the operating system and the application which we are working on. So this was majorly about the theoretical part of broadcast. Now let us go ahead and see how exactly we implement broadcast. So for the implementation, our scenario will be like this. Like we will be setting up a broadcast receiver in which like we will be filtering it as per SMS received. So whenever an SMS will be received, like this particular broadcast receiver will receive the SMS and like will show you like from where it is coming and like what is the content of the SMS. So to do this, like we will divide it basically into like these three steps. At first, we will have to create a class which will extend another class which is broadcast receiver. Obviously, B will be capital, R will be capital, and there will be no space in the class name. So after creating of this class, you will have to override a method which is on receive. So whenever like a broadcast is received, it is like received in a method on receive, and like this method is something which is called, and you should not be doing a lot of processing inside this method. All you should do is like you should take up the data, and then you should schedule a job or a worker thread, and then you can do your processing inside those. But these broadcast receivers are not for long running tasks. These are for very short duration tasks, and like if you try to do a long running task, they might get terminated in between because the operating system itself kills the broadcast receiver main thread, like when it is not used or if it is consuming a lot of memory. So these are basically for not doing long running tasks. These you should never do long running tasks inside broadcast receiver on receive method. Then after like extending this up, we will be like setting up and like registering the receiver. So these two steps are for registering the receiver. So again, you can register the receiver in Android manifest file, so which is what like manifest based registration is. And second, like you can do it using the Java code, which is nothing but context based registration of this broadcast receiver. So these are like the two steps, and now let me go back to my Android Studio and like let me show you up the scenario. So here till now what we have is I have an application which launches up with auto funnel main activity, and when I go ahead and slide at the end, I will be just opening up second activity. So as of now, like in the previous chapter, we like coded up the OAuth 2 authentication. That code is in fragmented activity. I have removed that code like this activity entirely as of now. So as soon as the person swipes till the end, it will go up to the second activity, which is second activity, and where I have made this change. I have made this change in auto funnel. You can see this code from line 171 to 175. So this is taking us to the second activity over here, and in this second activity, we just have a center text view element in the XML. So if I see up this XML, this has only a text view whose ID is company name, and this is what like the ID has been taken up, and we are just setting up a text where it says I am in activity to showcase broadcast receiver. So at this place we will be like registering the receiver, uh, and to register the receiver at first we need the receiver. So let us go ahead over here, right click, say new, and say Java class. So I will just name this class as SMS receiver, and when I make up this class, I have to extend broadcast receiver, right? So mhm. So I will just import up this class, and it should be imported from android.content. So now it gives me an error because I have not overridden the method. So let me override the method. uh, Let me just click on this bulb and say implement methods and say okay. So this particular now SMS receiver class is extending up broadcast receiver class, and because of this we have to override a method which is on receive. And because of this method, whenever like a broadcast receive will happen, on receive will be called, and like in this method you can like schedule a job but you should never do long running task inside this method, because like this method like starts up from this braces and ends at line 14, and it is never recommended like to do long running tasks inside this method. So our goal should be to take up the data and like schedule it by some other mean, right? So here now you have put up the receiver. Your receiver is all set to do whatever data you get in the receiver will be through this intent. You can get that data using this intent. And then we have this context, which is nothing but the context of the person who is sending up this broadcast. So let me just copy paste this content over here, and let me just say log.i, and we will talk about this code in a while. Sender, and say sender, then I will say log.i, and let me say message, and then message body. And in this, let me say that we are in SMS receiver for SMS receiver, and then message for SMS receiver, right? So we have written up this code. If you see up this code starts from line 17. So this code represents the job which we are doing. Like here, exactly what we are doing. We are like fetching up the data. So we can fetch up the data inside this receive function, and after fetching up this data, whatever work you have to do for that, you should like schedule a job, right? Or like you can start up a work process. So we have already discussed on worker threads before, which can be like taken up in this particular receive method now. Then in line 16 to 18, we just have the logs. And if you see line number 20, we say that intent dot get extras. So intent, like we have already talked about intent. Intent is something in Android which is used to communicate between inside an activity, inside an application, or between few applications. So when you say that intent carries up an action, it also carries up the data. So when you create up an intent, say you create up an intent and say that intent is a class, and you just create an object ABC and say new intent, and now if you say ABC dot put put extra, so you see over here something called as put extra. So this intent has a function which takes an extra, which takes a string name and a value name. So when you put something over here in the intent, it can be like you can get it using get extra. So if I show you up this, like this intent function dot get, so when you do something like this, either you can like take up all the key value pairs by saying get extras, and all the key values pair will be saved as a bundle, or else you can like fetch up a single key value using, like if you know that the type of value is float, you can say get float extra and the name of the value which you want. So this will return the float value. So you can even like fetch up a single value from the intent. So this here we are fetching up all the values which is carried up by this intent, and we're putting up in a bundle which is data, and then from inside this bundle we're fetching something which is called as pdas. So pdas is something which is the key for the SMS message. It contains all the information about the SMS, the originating number, the message body, everything. And if you see that, we say that till pdas dot length, till the end of the length would do what, just put up the pdas value and like put up and create it inside a class object which is SMS message. So there is a predefined class in Android which is SMS message, which has all the like variables which should be there, and like which all information will be there in this particular pdas, such as originating address number or the message body. So here also we are doing up the same thing, like you are getting up the pdas, and then after getting up the pdas, like you say that in the first message, when you receive the first message, so you are just saying that for the first message, please get the originating address, that is the phone number, and that will be displayed in like this, that will be put up in the sender string. Then the message body, SMS message dot get message body will be sent up in message body. So if you see up this line at 26, which is the most complex line over here, which is like putting up the value in PDUS into SMS body, and this PDUS length should always be 1, because if you receive a single message, it should always be 1. You should not be receiving 3 messages at a time, but if you are receiving 3 messages at a time, this length will increase to 1, 2, then 3. So the, the length of PDUS means the number of messages, SMS messages, which you are receiving up. So for the first messages goes inside and like it's fetch up the display. So this particular line 26 which we are talking about is nothing but the mapping. So that the data which is present in PDUS is not in readable format, and that is something like which needs to be converted into byte. And then after converting into byte, you just say SMS message dot create from PDU, which is obviously a deprecated function now, which you can see that it is a cross, but it will work. So even the deprecated functions work for now. Like there must be some other function which must be used to fetch up this SMS, which you can obviously go ahead and like search for your analysis. So this is a job which we are doing here. We have fetched up the sender like phone number and then the message body, and then we are just putting up the logs for SMS and sender. So if you see line number till 32 till 38, so we are just putting up the log so that we know from where the message is coming. So till this point, I can say that my uh, okay, so I was missing braces over here. So till this point, I can say that like my receiver is all set and like good to go further. So if I go back to my screen, so first point is complete. Now the second point is like we need to register up this receiver. So in this case, this particular receiver should be registered, and this receiver can be registered in two ways. So one is the Android manifest, which I have opened up right now. So you can see that this is the Android manifest, and in this manifest we have few activities, and with these activities we also want a receiver. So what you can do is like you can go ahead and put up something called as this. So here you will have to tell Android like where this receiver resides, and this receiver is an SMS receiver, and here you need SMS permissions because you are receiving of this SMS. And second, the intent filter. So you can see that the intent filter over here is Android intent action airplane mode, boot completed, input method change. So all of these are not required. Let me delete all of them, and only one intent filter is required, which is nothing but this one. So let me just copy it and paste it. Okay. So if you see up this thing, it says that there is a receiver which has an intent filter, and this intent filter name is telephony SMS intent SMS received action. So this intent filter is defined by Android. If you put up this, then this receiver will only receive the SMS received like action. So whenever an SMS is received, this receiver will like start up the on receive function, and in this on receive function you will get the message. So this is all which you have to do in manifest declared broadcast receiver. So you have created up the broadcast receiver and you have registered the broadcast. So this is nothing but the registration of the broadcast receiver. But this way of registration is always like said no. You should never register a broadcast receiver in manifest. You should always like prefer to go ahead and register a receiver in your Java code, because if you register the receiver in the manifest, this receiver becomes global for your application and it hampers the performance. It keeps on lingering with the application. Whenever the application is switched on, this receiver will be on. So for example, you are building up an application in which you are reading up the OTP. So you need to read up the OTP only on the screen where you are like putting up the OTP, right? So automatic reading of the OTP like is needed, and you should register this particular receiver on that activity. When that activity is created, you should register that particular receiver, and then when that activity is destroyed, you should unregister that receiver. So let me go ahead and delete this. We will not be doing registration using manifest. So I just wanted you to know, like, we can register a receiver in manifest. Second way of registering a receiver is in the activity. So this is the activity and this is the SMS receiver which we have. So I want to register this receiver. So to register this receiver, I will just go ahead and at first let me right click over here and say generate, and let me generate a method over here in method, and that method is nothing but destroy. On destroy, let me say okay. So here we will register the receiver. In on destroy, in on create we will register the receiver, and in on destroy we will unregister the receiver using Java code, right? So for registering the receiver, let me go ahead over here and let me just copy up this statement and go back to Android Studio, and let me just paste it. So if you now see the code from line 35 till uh, 35 till 39. So this is the code which is required to register a broadcast. So this is SMS receiver, and then we have intent filter. Okay, and the intent filter which we want over here is this one. And now we will have to place up this value in line number 39. So this particular string like this gives up the upper library in which like this particular action will have to happen. So we say that this intent filter belong to telephony library, and this telephony library has an intent which is like nothing but SMS received action. So here we do not need to add the action explicitly, and while we create it, this is enough, and it will like create up this filter, and at the end we just say like register receiver. So this is like we are registering the receiver. We are registering the receiver which is BR and which is filtered by this filtered intent. So this receiver will only receive the SMS received action. So this particular receiver has been registered. Now you have to unregister it. So to unregister it, you will just say unregistered and say receiver, and the receiver name is BR, right? So as you have not declared of this receiver outside, so that's why it is giving you an error. Just declare it outside and just give this initialization inside here. So this is good now, and it is so simple. Here you are registering, and here you are unregistering this receiver, and this receiver will work only for this particular filter. Before we go ahead and like try and test it, there is one more thing which is required for this particular receiver to work, and that is the permissions. So we will like need SMS read permission, then we will need SMS receive permission, and we might also request for SMS send permission, although this is not required for this particular action, but for receiving and reading it you require these two permissions, which is SMS read and SMS receive. So for this, like, I have just copy pasted the code in point 20, like from line 23 to 27. These are the variables for these permissions. Again, like we are not discussing how we ask for the permissions. This has already been discussed in some previous chapter. Then over here, I'll be just calling up my function, which is check permission, and this particular function is checking up the permissions for these three areas, which is send SMS, then receive SMS, then read SMS, and this is being handled in on request permission result. So we have asked for permissions, and now let us go ahead and test. So we will be testing our application on a real device. You can see that this is my laptop and I have attached a OnePlus 5 phone using a USB, right? You can see the cable. And the first step for like testing on a real device is you need to go to the settings, which is here, and then you need to go to system, sorry, about phone. And in about phone you have build number. You need to just continuously press it 8 or 9 times, and here you see that it says that no need, you are already a developer. So I have done this previously, that's why it is showing me this message. But for you, when you will then go to system, you will find something developer options, which was not there before. You just need to go to developer options and make sure that USB debugging is switched on. So unless you do this USB debugging switched on, you will not be able to see this mobile here on your laptop like this. So to see something like this, you will have to switch on this debugging. So now what I will do, I will just run it, and you can see at the very bottom it says that it is installing it. So now it is launching it, and these are the logs. So these logs are from the phone. You can see that this has been connected to OnePlus 5, and then this is the package name. And then if I go back and show you my phone, this is the app which we have. Now let me just move ahead till the very end, and you can see the logs where it says that I am in on create method and all required permissions have been granted. So now let me do one thing. I should clear all the logs first, and let me send a message to this phone number. So you can see that there is a text message which has been received, and this message has been received from a number which is my number, and it just says one thing, which is nothing but just test message. And you can see that it has been like just delivered now. And if I just go ahead and see my logs, so in my logs I will be able to see all these things. So you can see the very top, and like these first three messages out here. So these messages tell you like the SMS has been received, this message has been received from this number, which is my number, and the body is only test message. This is what it is there. The body is only test message. And like this like basically tells you like how you should set up the broadcast receiver. And now we will go ahead and see how do we send up the broadcast. So while like we were just receiving of the broadcast, we focused on filter action, which was for telephony SMS, and then like this particular broadcast required permissions. So how do a broadcast know what exactly it should look for? So this is something like which is decided while you send up a broadcast. So while you send up a broadcast, you can send up a broadcast in a way when it is received, only filter action is checked, or else when it is received, filter action and permissions are checked, or else when it is received, filter action, permission and set package is checked. So what is set package? Package is something like which is the package name of our class. So this is the package name. When you set a package, when you say that you're sending up the broadcast and you set a package, then that particular broadcast can only be received by a particular package. This is very important for a security concern. But rather than doing this, if you already know that you will not be using anything else other than your application and you will not be communicating with other apps, so at that stage you can use local broadcast as well, and like that is the best option because it knows that it does not have to communicate with other apps, and hence it is good performance wise. So if I just go ahead and like make you see this particular thing which is securing broadcast, it says that you can specify a permission. So in this particular case which we did today, we were specifying a permission for SMS to read it, and then you can also specify a package with set package. This is done while we send up the broadcast. We will just see. And at last you can like send up a local broadcast with local broadcast manager. This is a class which is local broadcast manager. So how do we send a broadcast? If you see up from 951 to 59 at first, like first few lines, these are just like you're putting up an intent, and broadcast is nothing but the a message which you're broadcasting to all the people. You're saying that this broadcast will be received only by receivers which have set the intent filter to be this particular thing, and this is nothing but your message, which is the key and the value. Then at line 55, you can see that you are sending up the broadcast, and you are saying that this broadcast could be received by everyone, which like is receiving this particular filter, intent filter, which is this, right? But the if you send see up this broadcast, which is 56 and 57, it also has a comma and it has two arguments. Second argument is the permissions. So this particular thing means that when you're sending up this broadcast, it means that whoever receives it should have this particular filter and should also be like having the SMS permission. Otherwise, this the broadcast should not be delivered. So this is what like was set up for this particular broadcast, which is SMS. So that's why you require the permission as well. And and the last part is that you can set up the package, which is like done by set package function while sending up a broadcast. So you can just say intent dot set package and then set the package name, which is com dot example dot auto funnel in this case. And now this particular broadcast will only go to this package, which is this. All the apps running with this package having this SMS permission and this intent value will be passed on as a broadcast message. And at the very last, you can also implement the broadcast using local broadcast. Obviously, like I am not going ahead and like showing you up the code. You can Google it out. It is very simple. The main thing is understanding of the concepts. And this brings this lesson to the close. And let us meet up in the next lesson. Please, please, please do subscribe and like my channel. This is powered by host-tune-perform.